Hello and welcome to the State of the Fleet Industry, a weekly video series produced by Automotive Fleet magazine. I'm Mike Antich, editor of Automotive Fleet, and today I'd like to examine what's occurring in the fleet industry for the week of May 23rd, 2022. And for this week's episode, I'd like to examine the first glimpses we're seeing at the start of the 2023 model ordering cycle to see if there's any clues as to what might be in store for the balance of the model year. And the first glimpse occurred just last Friday, May 20th, 2 days ago, with an unexpected announcement from General Motors of an immediate fleet order cutoff for the following 2023 models. And they are the Cadillac CTS, the Cadillac Escalade ESC, the Escalade ESV, the Buick Enclave, Chevrolet Tahoe, Chevrolet PPV, which is the police pursuit vehicle, and the Chevrolet Suburban. And the announcement went on to state that the fleet orders for these models placed on that day, meaning May 20th, the day of the announcement, were at risk of cancellation. So not exactly an auspicious start for the 2023 model year ordering cycle. But one thing is absolutely certain, and that's that end user demand for fleet vehicles in the 2023 model year will be extremely strong because these companies need to compensate for the vehicles that they were unable to source in the 2021 and 2022 model years. The reality is that there's a huge pent-up demand in the fleet industry to replace higher mileage units that are being kept in service beyond their scheduled replacement dates. Fleet managers around the country are hoping that the 2023 model year will be a catch-up year to allow them to replace some of the vehicles that they were unable to source in the past 2 years. But even though fleet demand continues to be strong, supply constraints continue to put downward pressure on production volumes. And here's what one fleet manager told me. So, quote, manufacturers are still having issues getting parts to build vehicles. And from what I was told by my fleet rep, this is going to last into 2023, end of quote. And sometimes the issue is not even getting a vehicle model, but rather it's getting the same vehicle model in a fleet configuration. So consider this quote from another fleet manager. Quote, there is a real availability issue for fleet level vehicles. For example, it's difficult to get pickups that aren't loaded with options geared towards retail customers, end of quote. And even in the pre-pandemic years, there were always production constraints with shortages of specific paints, electronics, cameras, missing items, and option packages, and so on. The reality is that when you're building millions of vehicles in a year and in a just-in-time production environment, these types of constraints are inevitable. But what makes the past 2 years different is that we've been experiencing a first ever shortage in automotive grade microprocessors. And while there's been a measurable improvement in microprocessor availability over these past 2 years, nonetheless, a shortage of microprocessors still exists, and this shortage is anticipated to continue to impact production schedules, maybe to a lesser degree, but these shortages will persist for the remainder of the 2022 calendar year. And as we transition into the 2023 ordering cycle, all indications are that production volume will continue to lag behind end user demand. And one indicator that supports this supposition is the current forecast from Auto Forecast Solutions, whose studies you see in various automotive trade publications and on the internet. And their forecast is that by year end, calendar year 2022, there will be 603,000 fewer vehicles built in North America due to these supply constraints. And to help manage these vehicle availability constraints, more OEMs have adopted a controlled allocation system. And under a controlled allocation system, each company's fleet order must be approved through their OEM's fleet account executive. And while this may guarantee that fleets will be allocated a specific number of vehicles, in all likelihood, it also means that fleets will not get all of the vehicles they want to order. This promises to add to the pent-up demand among fleets that will carry over into the next model year, namely the 2024 model year. And here's what one procurement manager told me, quote, we do not expect to receive every vehicle we order. We have already been told about going on allocation for model year 2023, and the ongoing supply chain challenges will continue to impact production rates for 2023 models, end of quote. And as end user demand promises to exceed production volumes, some OEMs have decreased the incentive monies that they will offer for 2023 models, which is apparent when you compare what is offered for the same model in 2022 compared to what is being offered in 2023. The reduction in fleet incentives monies, however, does impact model selection, especially for units that historically have lower resale values than competitive models. And here's what one FMC told me, quote, "The decision to select specific manufacturers and vehicles is mostly driven by cost versus anticipated resale. However, incentives do help sway total cost of ownership when the residual values just aren't strong," end of quote. And another concern voiced by fleet managers is that order to delivery times for the 2023 model year will continue to be lengthy. And this is especially the case among fleet managers who require auxiliary equipment to be outfitted on truck chassis or inside van interiors. And here's what one fleet manager told me, quote, "Upfitting has been painful and getting more expensive. There's been a lot of errors in the upfitting this past year, likely due to new hires or more likely due to no hires," end of quote. This was seconded by another fleet manager. And this is what this fleet manager said, quote, "The main factor that will affect my delivery outcomes is upfit timing. Getting custom service bodies built because of all the applicable equipment that is being impacted by supply chain delays has been a challenge. Installations are taking much longer than in past years," end of quote. And in summary, hope that these observations and concerns that I've shared with you in this video report actually prove to be unfounded. But only time will tell whether these vehicle sourcing concerns will be right or wrong. So until then, I'll make this my final observation. I'd like to conclude my State of the Fleet Industry presentation for the week of May 23rd, 2022. And I want to thank you for watching.